Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Williams Brown, and I am the Senior Coordinator for the Theatrical and Non-Theatrical team at Tiff. Um, Thank you. Welcome to this special screening of Never Look Away at Tiff Lightbox. Through archival footage, first-hand accounts, and interviews, director Lucy Lawless paints a striking portrait of groundbreaking CNN camera operator Margaret Moth, whose bravery in the face of danger sometimes bordered on self-destructive. A complicated figure, she faced her challenges with unmatched perseverance, both in her personal life and through catastrophic injuries received through getting caught in the crossfire. We are so thrilled today to have a virtual post-screening Q&A with director Lucy Lawless. Internationally known for her role as Xena Warrior Princess, Lawless went to star in a plethora of films and television roles. Never Look Away is Lucy Lawless's directorial debut. Just before I let you go, we'd like to extend a sincere thank you to our major sponsors, RBC and Visa, as well as our major supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. I would also like to thank our donors, members, and supporters for championing TIFF's mission to transform the way we see the world through film. TIFF cannot achieve all that it does without your ongoing support. We'd also finally like to thank Films We Like for providing us with the film. Now, we are not the biggest crowd today, but I believe fully that we can be the absolute best ones. So if you have questions, make sure to keep them in your mind, because after the screening, you'll absolutely have a chance to ask Lucy. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you after the show. Oh, hello. Hello, Lucy. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh my God, thank you for joining me, everybody. Hi.
There's a chorus of highs.
Kia ora from New Zealand.
Oh, wonderful. Is it around noon there?
It is 2:13 p.m.
Okay, perfect, lovely afternoon Q&A. Everybody ignore the fact that it's nighttime here. So I just wanted to start by asking about the interview participants. There's so many different people who were in this film. I do wonder, and particularly about the two men who were her lovers, was it difficult to get people to participate, or was everyone excited and eager?
Um, it was a mixed bag. There were a lot of people, several people who declined to be even spoken to because even though they'd been very good friends of Margaret, I think she was a spicy character and not always agreeable. And I don't think they wanted to participate in something just in case I was going to sanctify her or in case they would tell some anecdote that was, I don't know, not favorable to Margaret or to themselves. And but the lovers, they were great, actually. I was told that it would be difficult to find Yashinka because he would likely be dead, and I bloody well found him. It was a miracle. Um, Jeff was one of the first people that Joe enabled me to contact, and I was thrilled that he seemed to like the idea right away, felt that I was the right person to tell it. I suppose because I'd played a warrior princess on TV, and trust me, I will. I totally use that if it's lucky. If it's useful, I'm going to use it. Um, and he was very open. Um, Actually, he was extremely raw. I think he had never really examined his relationship with Margaret, the his abandonment of her, his guilt, his shame. Oh, he felt she had let him down. It was just a maelstrom of uncomfortable feelings for him. So you could see that he was very generous to let it all show.
Yes, he was very vulnerable. Particularly at the end, I was very moved by what he was saying about, as you said, examining his feelings in this movie.
The crazy thing about that, actually, Catherine, is that when I first met him, he was very raw. And by the time we went back the third time, it had sort of closed a loop for him in terms of just, as he said, he felt like the film had brought Margaret back to him. And then a couple of months later, he just died.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's such a shame.
It was like he had what was holding him together was all this kind of fire of negativity and poor me. He felt quite bereft and very self-pitying on some level. And he just gave it all up, and I feel like he felt it was okay to go now.
That's great, though, that you were able to give him such a release close to the end for him. So that's really beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
so sometimes documentary filmmaking, I feel like, is very difficult because it can run the risk of being a bit static. But like, I thought there were so many really interesting, brilliant visual choices that you made in this film. In particular, I was really interested in the scenes where you use miniatures, I think, to portray parts of Margaret's life. How did that come to be? How did you come up with that idea? And were those real miniatures?
Well, yes, they're all big physical diorama, quite large scale, actually, like 25 feet deep. Well, we had to do that because there was just this dearth of imagery. There were no pictures, obviously, when she's driving to work with her friends. They're not rolling the camera in the back of the van, nor in the darkest moments of her recovery or the aftermath of the sniping. Zero images. So, how do you tell that story? You've got to create something, and we were discussing: do we do animation? Do we shoot with actors? Do a recreation? But we felt that those were not fresh ideas. Everybody's seen that done and done well. CGI didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the budget, and that's not my vibe. Um, so Matthew Metcalf actually said to me, "What about diorama?" And I went, "Oh God, yeah, that's so old, it's fresh again." And that was what we had done in the 70s as kids. You'd make diorama at school. So it was something I just understood um, organically. You know what I mean? It's practical, it's really old school, it's really lo-fi. And then we compounded the nightmare scenario, not only with the colors that we chose and the light. I wanted colors that wouldn't go together in nature. So it would be put you in an uncanny realm and then sort of compress the whole experience for the audience by sort of making it a bit submarine, which also is something from my nightmares as a child from movies that were around again in the 70s. So that was a real uh, that was utilizing all the horrors of childhood to try to bring Margaret's nightmare alive.
It was very interesting. It was also, in terms of the colors you chose, kind of almost like a crime scene investigation.
I didn't think of that. You know what happened? Sometimes it's budgetary constraints are what force style. So they said to us, uh, you can have three colors. Three colors for what? Three colors for everything.
Oh,
And I
wow.
went, okay, so I want to choose three colors that don't go together in nature. What are we going to do for a shoot off, a background? Um, can we have green screen? No, you can't afford green screen. Oh, well, what can we afford? They said you can have a black curtain. And I said, perfect. Because, when you get these constraints, you can only go forward. You have to accept them and then find a way to spin it so that it forces you to choose something a little bit edgy and cool, right? So, yeah, I chose green skin for the people, the miniatures of people, and we had grey buildings and a black sky, and I wanted a sort of an apricot light so it would look like the midnight sun in the northern hemisphere in the Arctic Circle, and that way you could have it could be day or it could be night. We don't know. Um, Everything is designed to be uncanny.
It really worked. I also, and speaking of images, there's lots of really beautiful photos of Margaret and like clips of her. Were those easy to find, or was like a treasure trove you found somewhere, or was it very difficult to source?
Both. Half of those came from Joe Duran's what he inherited from Margaret, what she left him was a suitcase of memories. And other things I found just by ringing around New Zealand, and you get a number that leads to somebody else, with a number leads to somebody else who might just have some 16 millimeter of Margaret staring down the barrel of the camera from art school. And a chap called Paul Johns gave me that little gem which starts and ends the movie. Other things, I found Margaret in the back of other journalists' shots when I was just doing homework into certain conflicts where I knew she was at, like Lebanon. If you notice, when the camera approaches the bombed out UN building, Margaret's already actually in there. So she was the first on the scene. And but I luckily found this Iranian kid who happened to be there the same day as Margaret.
That's very serendipitous. Um, I wanted to ask as well, was there something that really surprised you about her when you were making this documentary?
Oh, everything. I couldn't figure her out. You know, she was not like anybody I've ever met before. Um, I was hearing all these very contradictory anecdotes about who Margaret was. And it wasn't until I met her family that I started to see, oh my goodness, what joins all of these disparate accounts together is fundamentally the product of a pitiless, loveless childhood. That they had everything they materially needed, but zero emotional nurturance. And I think that is what enabled her to survive because she possibly didn't even develop a capacity for self-pity. And all her siblings are like that. And though I loved every one of them personally, I loved them, but they don't love each other. So something was really just the strain of abandonment goes right back 2 or 3 generations at least.
The
And
scenes.
yeah,
Oh, my apologies. I was going to say that the scenes that you show of the family, it almost is like you're getting a glimpse of Margaret because it seems like they're talking about very grim things in a very humorous way, which I feel like a lot of people can
yeah,
relate to. But yeah, it was definitely showcased.
really? Oh,
Oh,
gosh, that blew my mind. Because part of the difficulty with the family and me being new, you know, I would do things differently next time. But part of the difficulty was that they have very little, none of them, including Margaret, were apt to introspect. So, not very much insight into themselves, nor any curiosity to look back and pick over the coals of their upbringing. They're just go ahead people and don't look back, don't re-examine, which made it them very curious interviewees because they don't feel sorry for themselves at all. And you know what? They really deserve to. They were horrible. They were badly done by as children. And when I said that to Jan, Margaret's older sister, I said, God, Jan, I wish you'd been cuddled more. And she looked at me like, no, well, I guess so. You know, like this was a completely new concept to her. She'd never stopped to think that maybe she deserved better. So, yeah, that was tricky. And the laughing, the disconnect between what they were saying and the laughing, and yes, very instructive about how Margaret got to be the way she was.
absolutely. So I think I'm going to open the questions to the audience. For anyone in the audience, we have two lovely people on either side. If you'd like to raise your hand if you have a question, and if I point to you, someone will come to you. So yourself right there. Oh, okay. We'll go over here.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Great. Hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for being here with us and for a brilliant film. My question is, and I think it was Stefano who talked about the experience that he had and that correspondents like Margaret have in getting covered in the sorrow. It was something that I noticed when he said that, and I just wondered how you experienced that while you were making this film, that notion of being covered in sorrow. And I also wondered how you're feeling today with world events, how they're unfolding, given your experience in creating this film.
Actually, I think it was Yashinka who said you walk away covered in this souffrance, in the suffering. But Steph was also talking about it. I didn't really, went down some rabbit holes with this one, some stuff that I realized could not go in the film because it wasn't about Margaret. You know, I'm not making a film about geopolitics, but crikey, you really could. Um, how do I feel about what's going on? I'm absolutely aghast and shocked at the scale, but the retribution was almost it was almost to be it was to be expected. I was absolutely freaked out when I realized the scale of what Hamas had done and what must follow, because the Kana event was what we don't spell out there was 2 Israeli soldiers were taken and 100, I'm going to get the number wrong, 167 people were macerated in that UN camp. And it's just ugly, ugly stuff. And it fills me with sense of horror, and I guess I feel like the lunatics are in control everywhere, you know? I don't see any diplomacy going on. What's up with that? Where's the diplomacy? At least you had Clinton in that report giving lip service, trying to bring about, broker a peace deal. What's going on with that? Madness. Anyway,
Hi. It was a
hi.
fabulous film. I really wanted to, coming from a documentary background, I want to say you made a wonderful film. What
Oh,
got
thank
you to
you.
want to make this film, number one? And number two, just to follow up on putting it all together, I mean, you obviously had the full cooperation of CNN in terms of getting the
Yes.
footage and everything else, but how long did it actually take you to put it all together?
Okay. What was the first question? I'll go with
Why
the
did you
last
want to
one
make
first,
the
and you can
film?
remind me of that.
Yes.
You know, we it took ages for Wen Lee, my researcher, and our producers, everybody, to getting as many of you, if you're documentary makers in the field, it's bloody difficult. Plus, camera people in those days didn't get credits, so there was no way to say this is absolutely Margaret's work. Plus, they shot everything on these massive kind of beta tapes, huge. They edited them in the field, sent the final package, the quote unquote package, back to Atlanta by satellite, and then the tapes were either taped over or destroyed. So it was pretty slim pickings. There were some events I knew Margaret was at. We tried to make sure things comported with the time, that her press passes and passport say she was at a certain event, but there is a lot of other people's work in there, and in all likelihood, and sometimes deliberately, because I'm trying to make a film that entertains you, but did due diligence, but it was really difficult. And CNN, that Tom Johnson, I've never given him proper credit. He was the one that helped get me access to CNN archives, but we have used stock footage in there, and that's all the brilliant Wen Lees. And we had 5 weeks to put all the archive in. It was really hard, all the archive while we were mixing and all that. It was really, really pressed for time. Yeah, some things got missed because you just run out of time, don't you?
I think we have time for one more question.
Thank you so much for the movie, and I think it's a very inspirational one. My question is, both Zena and Margaret Moth have inspired countless women to embrace their strengths. What do you hope audiences will take away from this film about courage and legacy?
Yeah, courage to tell the truth. That's what I want to take from it. What I would like other people to take from it is, one, a real appreciation for those people who, even as we are sitting here now, are out there facing death repeatedly to bring us the truth of the non-combatants of war. And the other message is, if you look at Margaret, if she did so much when so many things had been ripped away from her by a sniper's bullet, then who are we not to go out there and reach that little bit higher for the thing that we believe we're capable of? your potential is not the horizon, right? Your potential is beyond the horizon. So you got to get there before you can even discover what you're capable of. And that's what she did for me. I don't know what made me put my hand up for this. I don't know what made me jump in and make all these crazy promises that I could find the money and find the producers. But I feel like Margaret's spirit sort of grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and booted me through the directing door. And I'm incredibly grateful. She's changed my life.
Well, we're so grateful that you were compelled to do that. Actually, we do have room for one more question.
Thank you.
Just one final.
Hi, Lucy. You can't see us,
Oh.
right? No.
No.
It's Christy. We worked together in 2003 in New Mexico and Ireland on Warrior Women. I was the producer.
Oh my goodness.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you. So
Wow.
I came to this I came to this night so that I could say hello to you. Anyway, wonderful film, brilliant film. All the creative decisions that you made were incredible. All the good questions are taken up, but I really want to know, it must have been difficult making this archival film posthumously with this woman in your mind. Were you having like a dialogue with her in your own head making this film?
Yes.
You know, like, how did you know that you were honoring her story? I'm sure you did. What would she say about it? Would she congratulate you? Did it match her spirit?
I think Margaret would be very bloody-minded, like, I don't even care, do whatever, tell your story. She would be supportive of me telling her story my way. I really believe that's how she would be, because she kind of didn't care about anything she couldn't control. I wondered for a while, I'm like, oh, I don't think she'd like me, because I would press her on things. Like I press my friends, you know, I press her on what are you doing with those kids? What the hell is wrong with you? You know? And if there's one thing Margaret really didn't brook, that was sort of people gainsaying her, you know, or questioning her. I think that's why she was with, you know, Jeff and them, because they accepted any bit of nonsense that she said, like, I don't remember my childhood. Well, I wouldn't put up with that as a friend, would you? But in the end, I definitely felt like she would be supportive of me making the film, that telling the truth about her as far as I could ascertain it.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to say on behalf of everyone here, this was a brilliant film, and we're so grateful that you've made it. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your time.
Oh, bless you. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Lots of love.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you. Yeah, you.